look in your hymnals for number 83, Winds Be Still.
This is number 83, Winds Be Still. Sing along.
Good morning and welcome to the Community Church of Chapel Hill Unitarian Universalist. My name is Bill Rode and I'm a member of the Worship Associates Ministry here at the church. I would like to thank all of you for moving your clocks up forward and being here. Next year we'll make an effort to have y'all call a friend. Our minister is the Reverend Tom Belote. This morning we have a visiting minister with us. Lóre Stevens is currently the contract minister at the Foothills UU Fellowship in Maryville, Tennessee. Lóre is a graduate of Harvard Divinity School and also a bachelor's degree and master's degree from Eastern Michigan University. Lóre did her parish internship with the First Universalist Church of Minneapolis, so be sure and welcome her after the service. We would like to welcome any guests or newcomers to our service, and please refer to the note for guests and newcomers on the back of your order of service. Whoever you are, whomever you love, however you arrived at this beloved place, you are welcome here. I would like to say the lyrics for the hymns may be found on the live stream screen and on the order of services available in the Sunday's email or on our website. Please turn off or silent any phones you may have. This morning, I would like to introduce Sharon Parker, sitting down front, she's our artist for March and April. Her show is titled Expressing Reality as Felt, and the pieces range from realistic images of French doors and windows to abstract images of light and water. She bases her work on places she's traveled, France, Ireland, Iceland, and Greece. She's with us today at both services and will be available between the services to talk about her felt art, which you can see on our walls. Welcome you here. We're glad to have you here. This morning, we're going to have our share of the plate for the UU Justice Ministry of North Carolina with our own Reverend Lisa Garcia Sampson.
Good morning, everyone. I'm the Reverend Lisa Garcia Sampson. I proudly serve as the community minister for this congregation, and I also am proud to serve as the executive director of our Unitarian Universalist Justice Ministry in North Carolina. Friends, we belong to an abundant, loving movement in our state spanning over 80 organizations working to create collective liberation and thriving in North Carolina. And UU Justice NC's work is to organize our over 24 congregations in North Carolina to make strategic and impactful contributions to that larger movement. It is our movement that in 2023 expanded Medicaid to over 600,000 people in our state. Amen. It is our movement that will keep fighting until we win $4.4 billion with a B dollars desperately needed for public schools across our state. And it is our movement in 2024 that will register voters and educate voters and turn out voters, because the majority of people in North Carolina want reproductive rights, and they want LGBTQ rights, and they want school funding and fair wages and a strong democracy, and we are not going to stop fighting until we get it. This week, we launch nationally UU the Vote 2024. I hope you'll join us on Thursday. I have the privilege of speaking about the work, the critical work here in North Carolina. We don't need any more evidence after this week's Super Tuesday coverage that North Carolina is going to be an epicenter for this year's election, right? In 2022, North Carolina UUs came together to make over 70,000 voter contacts through postcards and phone banking. Raise your hand if you are a part of that work. Yep. We registered voters, we volunteered at the polls, and that included our involvement with rapid response safety teams who responded to threats at the polls by extremist groups like the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys. And this year, I don't need to tell you that the stakes could not be higher, and this year's UU the Vote campaign in North Carolina can and absolutely must be the largest activation of UUs in the history of our state. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for, one, being the largest congregational contributor to UU Justice NC in 2023. Give yourselves a round of applause for that. Thank you. I also want to thank all of the individual donors. You're not just donating, you're not just contributing and investing to UU Justice NC through Community Church, but I know many of you are among our most generous individual donors across the state as well, and I want to thank you for that. 4 years ago, our budget was $32,000. This year, our budget is $172,000, and that is because of people like you across the state who believe in the liberatory work of our state justice ministry. I'm excited to announce that in 2024, for the first time in our history, UU Justice NC will have a part-time UU the Vote organizer to help me out a little bit. And real talk, we have enough money, and we have raised enough money in 2023 for an organizer position of 15 hours a week. But if we are able to have a strong fundraising effort between Share the Plates and grants in early 2024, we can increase those hours to 20 or 25 hours a week through our electoral cycle. And today you can help us do that. Beloveds, this year our moral legacy is on the line. In 2024, we will confront the forces of authoritarianism, of white Christian nationalism. Just last week I saw in Durham there are Russian flags now flying in the triangle and across the state. The stakes cannot be higher, and we need to tell the truth. We need to interrogate the limits of our imagination for what can happen if we are not all in on this election. We also need to interrogate the limits of our imagination for what we are capable of together. This is no time for despair. This is no time to feed a sense of powerlessness. The only reason why we are in the conditions that we are in North Carolina is because of gerrymandering and voter suppression. We are the majority of people in the state who want health care and housing and rights and our democracy and our bodily autonomy. We want these things. This is no time for despair. This is a time to deepen our faith in us, in ourselves, and in this larger movement for justice in North Carolina. Because together, and this is where faith comes in, right? Because together, with that faith, we can build the abundant North Carolina that we know each of us deserve. We're gonna make our children and our grandchildren proud this year. We're gonna leave them a world where they can thrive. Let's do this together. Thank you.
Now, if you would please join in our opening hymn, number 39, Bring, O Morn, Thy Music, by standing as you're willing or able. Thank you.
Good morning. I am so excited to be with you all this morning. Again, my name is Lóre Stevens. Thank you for having me. When I walked in this morning, I realized I've been here before on Zoom for Carter Smith's ordination a couple years ago, a classmate of mine from Divinity School. So excited to be visiting her home, her spiritual home. Today, I want to invite us to settle into worship with these words by the poet Annie Dillard. We are here to abet creation and to witness it, to notice each other's beautiful faces and complex nature, so that creation need not play to an empty house.
Now, Now, if you would join me in reading the words to the lighting of our chalice, which you'll find in the order of service. Flame of fire, spark of the universe that warmed the ancestral hearth, agent of life and death, symbol of freedom, we strive to understand ourselves and our earthly home.
Suggest to you, may I suggest this is the best part of your life. May I suggest this time is blessed for you. This time is blessed and shining, almost blinding bright. Just turn your head and you'll begin to see the 1,000 reasons that were just beyond your sight. The reasons why I suggest to you, why I suggest this is the best part of your life. There is a word that's been addressed to you, intended only for your eyes. A secret world, a treasure chest for you, of private scenes and brilliant dreams that mesmerize. A tender lover's smile, a tiny baby's hands, the million stars that fill the turning sky at night. Oh, I suggest, yes, I suggest to you, yes, I suggest this is the best part of your life. There is a hope that's been expressed in you, the hope of 7 generations, maybe more. This is the faith, they invest in you. It's that you'll do one better than was done before. Inside you know, inside you'll understand. Inside you know it's yours to finally set right. And I suggest to you, and I suggest this is the best part of your life. This is a song, comes from the west to you, comes from the west, comes from the slowly setting sun. This is a song with a request for you to see how very short the endless days will run. And when they're gone, and when the dark descends, we'd give anything for one more hour of light. May I suggest this is the best part of your life.
Each week we have a time in our service where we bring gratitude for joys or for sorrows. If you have a joy or sorrow, Please make your way forward. Drop a stone in the water and speak your name into the microphone briefly, and in a sentence or two, share your joy or sorrow. And please, we try to avoid announcements in this period. May we enter this time of trust and tenderness with open hearts and minds.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Rowan. This is my dad. And this past week, our neighbor Dawn passed away suddenly from an aneurysm. Dawn bought the house across the street when my dad was just 2 years old, and he has lived in our neighborhood and in this community as a whole since the 60s, since the very beginning for us. So not only is it a huge loss for our neighborhood, but also for the community as a whole. He was always a consistent figurehead, and he knew so much about Chapel Hill. So please keep us in your thoughts and prayers as we learn to navigate life without him right across the street from us.
I place this last stone in the water for those joys and sorrows that were not mentioned or kept silent and are nonetheless quite significant. May we hold these in our hearts in a moment of silence.
I'd like to share this meditation by Andrew Backus called "We Are Part of the Mystery." Spirit of life, mysterious power in all creation, we gather before you now, as countless have, asking that you make yourself known to us. Let us find you in the glories and wonders of the world and in moments of great joy and ecstasy. But most of all, let us find you in the commonplace, in that which we touch every day. Teach us in the careless, casual moments when we do not ask to be taught, and let us know that we are, indeed, part of the mystery. Now, Glenn will lead us in our sung meditation.
The words to the meditation hymn are in your order of service. We'll sing it through twice in unison and then as a two-part round. You'll see the first verse is "There is a love holding me," and the second verse we use the words in parentheses.
The director of religious education at my home congregation in Nashville, Tennessee, loves to share a Bible story once a month. Now, this can be a little controversial in UU congregations, but she liked to say that whether or not you resonate with the Bible, it is important for us to know the language and the stories that are important to so many of our neighbors in this, sometimes very Christian country that we live in. So Hebrew Bible stories, Christian Bible stories, they all have wisdom for us if we're open to them. So I'm excited to share one with you this morning. A couple thousand years ago in Egypt, a young man named Moses lived. He was a Hebrew adoptee in the Egyptian royal house. One day, he went out to his enslaved Hebrew kinsfolk and witnessed their labors. He saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew. He looked around, and seeing no one, he killed the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. But the word got around somehow or another, and when Pharaoh heard about it, he sought to kill Moses. So Moses ran away to the land of Midian and became a shepherd for many years. Quite a while later, Moses was leading his sheep into the wilderness, to the mountain Horeb. Suddenly, part of the one which exists appeared, as a flame of fire in a bush. Moses watched this suddenly, spontaneously combusting bush and noticed that it was burning and burning, but it didn't burn up. Out of the fire, a voice called, "Moses, Moses." And Moses answered, "I'm here." The voice said, "Don't come closer. Remove your sandals from your feet, for this earth you stand upon is sacred." Moses did so. "I am," said the voice, "the God of your ancestors." Even though Moses had been looking directly at the fire, he stopped, suddenly afraid to look directly at a god. The God continued, "I have seen the plight of my people in Egypt. I have heard their outcry because of their enslavement. I am aware of their suffering. I have come to rescue them and bring them to a good and spacious land, flowing with milk and honey, the region of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. The cry of the Israelites has reached me, and I have seen how the Egyptians oppress them. So I will send you to Pharaoh, and you shall free my people, the Israelites, from Egypt." But Moses said, "Who am I that I should do this? Just a shepherd." The God replied to this question simply, "I will be with you." Moses asked, "Okay, when I tell the Israelites that the God of their ancestors sent me, what should I say your name is?" Because in his world, all the gods had different names. The God said, "Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh. I am what was, what is, and what will be. So tell the Israelites that Yahweh, the one which exists, the God of their ancestors, sent you." Yahweh said, "This shall be my name forever. This shall be my title for all eternity. I am."
Freely have we received gifts that minister to our needs of body and spirit. Gladly we bring to our church and its wide concerns a portion of this bounty. If you wish to donate electronically or online, there's a QR code on the back of your order of service, or there's information on the church's website. And if you're writing a check for Share the Plate this morning, please put STP in the memo line. May we receive today's offering.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
I'm so grateful to get to be here when you all's a cappella trio, Luminescence, is sharing their beautiful music with us. Thank you. Thank you very much. At the beginning and heart of every religion, there is an epiphany. A person, usually while alone in nature, has a flash of insight that fundamentally changes them and eventually the world around them. Moses and the burning bush, Jesus in the desert, Buddha under the tree, pagans, period. Unitarian Universalists affirm 6 sources of wisdom, and this is our very first. The direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces which create and uphold life, end quote. These moments of direct experience are in fact humanity's primary sources of wisdom, on which all other sacred texts and wisdom traditions are built. The beauty is that every single person can experience these transcendent moments from time to time. A German writer named Malvida von Meisenbug wrote, quote, "I was alone upon the seashore as all these thoughts flowed over me, liberation and reconciling. I was impelled to kneel down, this time before the illimitable ocean, symbol of the infinite. I felt that I prayed as I had never prayed before, and knew now what prayer really is: to return from the solitude of individuation into the consciousness of unity with all that is, to kneel down as one that passes away, and rise up as one imperishable. Earth, heaven, and sea resounded as in one vast, world-encircling harmony," end quote. I had the pleasure of visiting the Atlantic Ocean on the eastern coast of North Carolina this weekend, and Yeah, it seems pretty infinite. It's pretty world encircling. And there's just something about being near a vastness that's so much older than any of us, so much older than even our species, that really puts things in perspective. We can all encounter moments of feeling connected to something much bigger than ourselves. Holding a newborn, the wonder of new life and the echo of our ancestors. Looking at the stars, feeling small but so alive. Meditating, sitting in the moment and watching your breath transform you, second by second. Eating a vegetable you worked so hard to grow yourself that always tastes so much better. Watching the birds, dancing at a concert with hundreds of strangers, cuddling a beloved pet, with the wonder of interspecies adoration. Climbing a mountain, having great sex, hearing the perfect chord in a symphony, looking at the generations gathered together at a family reunion. All these and more are moments in which we directly experience transcending mystery and wonder, which renews our spirits and opens us to the forces which create and uphold life. While moments of wonder are easier to recognize in idyllic natural settings like the beach or a park with a 500-year-old tree, it's not necessarily a requirement. My first epiphany, which started me on this spiritual journey to become a UU minister after living my whole life as an unchurched atheist, was at a gas station while staring at a smartphone screen. Not very pretty. But that's just it. I had a moment of awakening and felt connected with all that is. Nature is not just forest and seaside, but the entire material universe. Humanity is not separate. What we build is not separate from nature. Our new UUA president, Reverend Dr. Sophia Betancourt, wrote a paper some years ago called Between Dishwater and the River. In it, she writes about, quote, an eco-womanist ethic that builds on the historic importance of wilderness while still maintaining that any place where a Black woman finds herself is a site of potential glory worthy of protection, end quote. This perspective doesn't offer judgment about the morality of the human-built world, nor hold it up as any more or less holy than anywhere else. Rather, it pushes me, at least, to accept that even the painful, broken, or toxic parts of existence, and myself, are simply part of the whole. It reminds me that human structures and cities are not separate, but they can be more or less upholding of the forces of life. Wherever we are, countless spectacular moments are available to us, within reach of each of us, but we have to be ready to receive them. Then, when these moments occur, we really have to pay attention. Pause, listen, receive, and feel. The direct experience of transcending mystery and wonder is accessible at any given moment, but only in the present moment, not in the past or future in our minds. As many times as I've fondly remembered my epiphany experiences, it's not the same as in that moment. So we have to practice being present so we're ready when these moments cross our paths. In our wisdom story, Moses was astonished by a bush and a flame. He turned away from his day job, walked barefoot on the earth, and let a small, mysterious phenomenon change his life and eventually change the world. Our first source tells us that the direct experience of transcending mystery and wonder is affirmed in all cultures. Judaism and Islam follow the cycles of the moon quite closely. Pagans, Christians, indigenous Americans, both North and South, have always loved the solstices and equinoxes. I would go so far to say that all people in some way or another probably take note of the seasons. That's because these natural phenomena aren't matters of opinion. They're not even quite facts, they just are. As I'm sure you know by now, there are so few things that most or all cultures can affirm and agree on together. We still can't even seem to agree on whether the earth is round. But the moments of peace, when we touch cool, clean water, the warmth of the sun on our skin, the awe of the vast universe above us at night, these, at least, we share by default, whether we like it or not. Of course, we can draw different meanings from these events. For example, some might think of an eclipse as an exciting scientific event. You put on your funny little goggles and you look at the sun. It's wow, amazing. While some, many throughout history, have received it as a terrible omen. Maybe God is angry with us. It's suddenly dark in the middle of the day, right? So we can draw very different meanings from the same natural events. The director of religious education at my home congregation taught me that each of our 6 sources has a clause with the word which. So for UUs, we don't just lift up any moment of wonder. Someone could interpret a violent nightmare as a message from their God and justify causing harm to others. We don't affirm those. Instead, we specifically treasure those experiences which move us to a renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces which create and uphold life. We specifically choose renewal, spirit, openness, and life. Capital L, life, the ecosystem, no one specific species better than others, but the continual cycle of life. Starhawk, the beloved American pagan leader, shares a breath meditation to remind us of our connections across time and species. She writes, "The air is a gift of the early ancestors. What you breathe in this moment, originated billions of years ago. This air passed through the lungs of dinosaurs and mammoths and the earliest humans. Just breathe in, taking in the creative power of the ancestors, of life, asking that power to infuse you." End quote. Native American author Robin Wall Kimmerer shares how even small, everyday acts can become sacred when we recognize the connections that they foster. She wrote, "My mother had her own more pragmatic ritual of respect, the translation of reverence and intention into action. Before we paddled away from any camping place, she made us kids scour the place to make sure that it was spotless. We also had to leave wood for the next person's fire, with tinder and kindling carefully sheltered from rain by a piece of birch bark. I liked to imagine their pleasure, those other paddlers, arriving after dark to find a ready pile of fuel to warm their evening meal. My mother's little ceremony connected us to them, too." End quote. Practices like these, which invite wonder and an acknowledgement of our interconnectedness, help remind us of the true nature of reality. They can stir us to support the forces of life, beauty, and creation, as well as to resist the forces of cruelty and destruction. The online abbess of the Abbey of the Arts wrote, "One of the fruits of contemplative practice is the remembrance of our wholeness. We are able to see past the divisions we create with our egos and minds and rediscover the truth that we are all one creation." End quote. Henry David Thoreau, a Unitarian, made a connection with transcendentalism and social activism in his book, On the Duty of Civil Resistance. This was kind of just an idea for Henry. It didn't really catch on with many of his friends yet, but the book was eventually read by Mohandas Gandhi during his first period of incarceration and helped inspire his nonviolent strategy of the Indian movement to break free of the British Empire, where with faith-based conviction, he wanted to resist cruelty without causing any more harm. Gandhi eventually met the Black civil rights leaders Howard Thurman and James Lawson, who brought the idea of spiritually rooted nonviolent resistance back to America and taught a generation of leaders like Bayard Rustin and the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. These spiritual and political matters are intimately linked. If we directly experience the transcendent connectedness of all life, how can we wish pain on another living being? If we know that our lives are interdependent even with our enemies, how can we allow them to be harmed? In our wisdom story, Moses' God directs Moses to lead his people to a land where people are already living. And that conflict has continued to this day. A nonviolent faith-based strategy would recognize that even though we are different peoples, we are connected under the oneness of the universe, which is all that is. There are some moments where we might put our body in front of another, and with no weapon in our hands and no harm in our hearts, simply say, "You'll have to go through me." Many religious and political leaders have shown us these transcendent causes are worth putting our lives on the line for. Those moments of sacrifice are some of the holiest stories across cultures. It is a level of spiritual depth in which we might risk our life to resist harm without wishing to cause more of it ourselves. When the empire thought Jesus was leading a rebellion, but he allowed himself to be captured and killed instead. When Martin Luther King Jr. received threat after threat, but still showed up in Memphis, Tennessee to support the sanitation workers' strike. When the suffragettes went on a hunger strike in prison because they valued the votes of women more than their individual lives. When a pacifist Quaker named Desmond Doss refused to pick up a gun, but joined the army instead to become a medic. When a parent risks their life giving birth to a child. These are the moments of transcending mystery and wonder, which renew the spirit and open us to the forces of life. The people who wrote this beautiful source, the previous versions of our UU 7 principles and 6 sources, left us a wonderful gift. We treasure that gift as we treasure, rather than fear, the inevitable changes of life. In the new Article 2 draft, this source of direct experience has been preserved. In the very first lines of the new inspirations section, it reads, "Direct experiences of transcending mystery and wonder are primary sources of Unitarian Universalist inspiration. These experiences open our hearts, renew our spirits, and transform our lives." End quote. Unitarian Universalists appreciate many sources of wisdom, from ancient texts to the guidance of sages and scientists. Yet it is significant that our primary source is one which is accessible and indeed ever present in each of our lives. There is no barrier to the experiences of wonder in our world. No priest is needed for you to personally experience transcendent wonder, although we are happy to help. No month-long meditation retreat, no ayahuasca or shrooms. Those can also help. But they aren't necessary. All that's necessary is that we be present, that we be open, and that we recognize beauty and wonder when we see it, and that we allow ourselves to be moved to action on the side of life and love. May it be so. Now, I invite you to rise in body and spirit and join me in singing hymn number 77 in our gray hymnal, "Seek Not Afar for Beauty," hymn number 77.
Seek not afar
If you'll join me in reading the words for extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And one more time, let's thank Luminescence for the music they provided. A quick reminder, as you leave, RE is still going on, so when you go over to coffee hour, if you'll please go to the far door instead of straight across to the Jones building so we don't interrupt them. If you would please join hands, or if you're more comfortable, crossing your arms, and let us sing the closing song, Shalom.